satellite scan. Satellite coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today our group is going to present December 15 MGT430. So my part is question 1. Question 1A state that the greatest value of OB, organization behavior, knowledge is to get things done in the workplace. Explain the importance of OB. So, OB is a group of people who work independently towards some purpose. The importance of OB is satisfied the needs to understand the organization and explain behavior of employees in a better way. OB helps to identify factors causing the behavior and helps to overcome with different strategies. OB also predict behavior and influence the behavior by get the things done properly. Besides, OB also help manager to manage the human resource effectively, as the manager is able to understand the behavior of their employees, and they can inspire and motivate them toward the higher productivity and better results. And number question 1B is about describe the 5 value in Stewart's values model. So the first one is self-direction. Self-direction is the desire to be free and have independent thought. For example, some organization may choose their own goals. The second one is power. Power is the desire for control or dominance over people or resources. For example, a person is motivated when they have the authority and wealth and also social power. The third point is conformity and traditional. Conformity and traditional is adherence to social norms and preservation of status quo. Conformity is when the person restrains of action from hurting and harms other people, while tradition is the respect and acceptance of social customers and traditional ideas in a society. Benevolence. Benevolence is a person being concerned for others that close to him. For example, the person is motivated to promote the welfare of others he close with by being helpful, loyal, and responsible. The next point is hedonism. Hedonism is a pleasure or gratification of desires for oneself. For example, the person is motivated to pursue in an innovative way by satisfy their life. So the next question is question 1C. Question 1C is explain two factors that influence job satisfaction. So there are two factors that influence job satisfaction, which are appreciation of employers' work and working condition. Appreciation of employers' work. The factor that influence the job satisfaction is recognition and appreciation of employees' work by the employer. The longer you work in the company, the more that you want them to appreciate the effort that you have been given to the company. As the company appreciate your work, you will become more motivated and you can be yourself to satisfy with your working condition in the company. So the next point is working condition. The company or organization need to provide appropriate working condition in order to influence job satisfaction. By providing good facilities and upgrade information technology, employees can complete their task efficiently, and having a proper working condition adds up the level of job satisfaction.
Okay, so for now, I proceed with the second question. It consists of two parts, which are part A and part B. Part A required me to briefly explain the terms given in the question, which are self-concept, self-esteem, self-efficacy, self-monitoring, and personality. Okay, for the first one, self-concept is an individual self-belief and self-evaluation. It is a belief that one have and the evaluation of themselves. For example, Mael is comparing his image to be a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, with his currently situation, which is an accountant. This is a situation in which Mael is comparing his image, what he wants to achieve, and which is the one that he desired with his current situation. Next is the self-esteem. Self-esteem is the extent to which people like, respect, and are satisfied with themselves. For example, Imran in class have high self-esteem as he respect and satisfied with his own achievement in getting the highest mark in accounting. And the third one, self-efficacy. Self-efficacy means a person believes that he or she has the ability, motivation, correct role perceptions, and favorable situation to complete a task successfully. For instance, Izzat has high self-efficacy as he is motivated to succeed in his study with flying colors, and then he got what he wants. He got the achievement by passing the previous semester with 4th grade. And then the fourth one is self-monitoring. Self-monitoring is a personality trait that refers to an ability to regulate behavior to accommodate social situations. As an example, Maya is one of high self-monitors as he can adjust her behaviors accordingly, socially flexible, and is adaptable in any situation. For example, he can adapt in calm situation and in emergency situation in a calm way and better way, depending on the situation in each situation. And the last one is personality. Personality is the relatively enduring pattern of thought, emotions, and behaviors that characterize a person along with the psychological process behind those characteristics. Halim, as an example, he has a very positive personality as he is kind, polite, and always overcome his problem with patience. And then the B part of the second question required me to discuss on the personalities of employees using the Big Five personality dimensions. Okay, the Big Five personality dimension is the clustering of personality traits. It has the handy acronym CANOE, which represents conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness to experience, and extraversion. Conciseness is a characterized people who are organized, dependable, goal-focused, thorough, disciplined, methodological, and industrious. People with low conciseness tend to be careless, disorganized, and less thorough. The next one is agreeableness. Agreeableness includes the traits of being trusting, helpful, good-natured, considerate, tolerant, selfless, generous, and flexible. People with low agreeableness tend to be uncooperative and intolerant of others' needs, as well as more suspicious and self-focused. Next one is neuroticism. Neuroticism characterizes people who tend to be anxious, insecure, self-conscious, depressed, and temperamental. People with low neuroticism have high emotional stability. They are poised, secure, and calm. And the fourth one, openness to experience. Openness to experience refers to people who are imaginative, creative, unconventional, curious, non-conforming, autonomous, and aesthetically perspective. People with low openness to experience usually refuse to change, less open to new ideas, and more conventional and fixed in their ways. This kind of people usually stick to what they are doing right now and don't want to improve themselves. Last trait is extraversion. Extraversion, as you can see me as an example, it shows people who are outgoing, talkative, energetic, sociable, and assertive. These traits are known as the people in these traits are known as extroverts. Extroverts get their energy from people and things around them. These people like and love being around people and want people to be around them, always being around them, so that they can be more motivated being with people.
5 methods to improve perception errors at workplace. There are 5 methods to improve perception errors at workplace. The first one is awareness of perceptual bias. Second, improve self-awareness. Third, meaningful interaction. Fourth, postpone impression formation. And lastly, communication openly. Okay, awareness of perceptual bias. In order to reduce perception errors, an individual should know that perceptual bias exists. For example, in an organization, there are situations where people discriminate other peoples. Even though there is a program to reduce this perceptual bias, but it still has limited effect. This is because it is very hard to educate people to incorrect stereotypes, prejudice, and discriminates. Self-fulfilling prophecy awareness training has also failed to live up to expectation because managers still engage with negative self-fulfilling prophecies after they complete the program. Second, improving self-awareness. As an employee, we need to become aware of our belief and value. This self-awareness can make people more open-minded and non-judgmental to others. Johari window also can be applied to reduce perceptual bias. It is developed by Joseph Luth and Harry Ingram. This model divides into 4 windows: open, blind, hidden, and unknown. Okay, the open area includes information about you that is known for both to you and to others. The blind area refers to information that is known to others but not to you, while the hidden area is information that known to you but unknown to others. Lastly, the unknown area refers to your values, belief, and experience that are unknown to you and to others. The third one, meaningful interaction. It is indirect yet potentially powerful approach to improve self-awareness and mutual understanding. It is also an activity. It is also any activity in which people engage in valued activity. The activities might be work-related or occur outside of the workplace. Meaningful interaction is founded on the contact hypothesis, where under certain conditions, people who interact to each other will be less perceptually biased because they have a more personal understanding of the other person. It can also reduce dependence on stereotype because we gain better knowledge about other individuals and potentially improve empathy toward others. Right. Number 4, postpone impression formation. This is very important because normally human being tends to form an impression about others people very fast and quickly. Judging someone with limited information is totally wrong. Therefore, it is important for an individual to postpone the impression formation by collecting the more information about other people. From there, you can reduce the perceptual errors in organization. For example, if there is a gossip in the company regarding this one person, as an individual, you have to make a confirmation and find more information whether the gossip is real or not, and do not quick to judge someone. And lastly, communication openly. This is one of ways to reduce perception error. As we know, 2 ways to communicate really significant, especially in an organization. This is because much of misperception in an organization arises due to inadequate communication or one-way communication. Hence, the message will be reached the right person at the right time in the right manner. Proper transmission of information followed by appropriate feedback can help minimize perceptual distortion. Okay, second question here. There are 3 levels of task interdependence. First, pool interdependence. Second, sequential interdependence. And lastly, reciprocal interdependence. Okay, for the first one, pool interdependence. Each organizational department or business unit performs separate function, while department may not directly interact or do not directly depend on each other. In the pool interdependence model, each does not contribute individual pieces to the same overall puzzle. For example, bank, which they offer different services to their client and not depends on one another. Second, sequential interdependence. It occurs when one unit in the overall process produce an output necessary for the performance by the next unit. Perhaps the most obvious example of sequential interdependence is an assembly line. Okay, and the last one is reciprocal interdependence. It is similar to sequential interdependence in that the output of one department becomes the input of the other. With the addition of being cyclical, reciprocal models are the most complex and difficult to manage, and the example is hospital.
Question 4. Describe 2 consequences of demotivation. There are 2 consequences of demotivation, which are poor customer service and also decrease in revenue. For poor customer service, this problem will occur if there are unmotivated employees because they might not have the patience to deal with the customer. The consequences of demotivation can include being rude with the customer's complaint, not offering suitable explanation, do not have the interest to satisfy the customer request, and so on. For decrease in revenue, when the employees are not motivated to do their job properly or having some problem in their work environment, it might lead to poor performance, in which it will decrease the revenue. As the employees' poor performance, they do not produce enough products to pay for their position. Thus, it will become an expense to the company, while on the other hand, the cost of the employee should balance with the revenue their position can generate. For question B, we'll advise Liana to apply expectancy theory to motivate her subordinates. Under expectancy theory, there are 3 factors, which are expectancy, instrumentality, and also balance. For expectancy is the individual perception that their effort will result in a level of performance. Some employees believe that they can easily accomplish the task, while some of them expect that even highest level of effort will not result in desired performance. This can be done by assuring the employees that they have necessary competencies, clear role perceptions, and necessary resource to reach the desired performance.
The individual behavior modeling and supportive feedback that can strengthen their belief to ever perform the task. For example, company can provide training and clarify job requirement, provide examples of similar employees who have done the task successfully, and so on. For instrumentality, it is the individual belief that specific behavior or performance level will lead to particular outcome. Some of them might believe that by accomplishing a particular task will result in particular outcome, or they believe that successful performance does not have any effect on the outcome. To improve this is to measure employee performance accurately and give more valuable rewards to those with high job performance. This is to make the employee believe that the high job performance will lead to high reward, so they might be more motivated to perform their task successfully. For example, give extra bonus or advancements to those with higher production. And lastly, for valence is the anticipated satisfaction or dissatisfaction that an individual feels toward outcome. Outcome have positive valence when they are consistent with the values and satisfy their needs, while if they have negative valence is when they oppose their value and inhibit need fulfillment. To increase outcome valence, the organizational leader should find ways to individual reward or to identify rewards that do not have negative valence for some employees.
Well, next is question 5. Define power and explain two important features of power with examples. Power is the capacity of a person, team, or organization to influence others. There is two important features of power, which is power is based on the target's perception, and power relationship depends on trust. Power is based on the target's perception that the power holder controls valuable resources that can help the target achieve his or her goals. People might generate power by convincing others that they control something of value, whether or not they actually control that resource. This perception is also formed from the power holder's behavior, such as someone who is not swayed by authority or norms. However, power is not a personal feeling of power. You might feel powerful or think you have power over others, but this is not power unless others believe you have that capacity. For example, one recent study found that people are perceived as more powerful just by their behavior, such as putting their feet on the table. Power relationship depends on someone's minimum level of trust. Trust indicates a level of expectation that the more powerful party will deliver the resource. Even those in extremely dependent situations will usually walk away from the relationship if they lack a minimum level of trust in the more powerful party. For example, you trust your employer to give you a paycheck at the end of each pay period. Okay, next question. Department A and B of Diamond Excel company are in conflict with each other. However, Department A have considerably more power than Department B. Identify and explain the best conflict resolution style. Okay, the answer is there are 5 conflict resolution, which are problem-solving conflict style: forcing conflict style, avoiding conflict style, yielding conflict style, and compromising conflict style. Okay, the first one is problem-solving conflict style. Prefer this style when interests are not perfectly opposing, parties have trust, openness, and time to share information. Also, the issues are complex. Next is forcing conflict style. Prefer this style when you have a deep conviction about your position. Dispute requires a quick solution, and the other party would take advantage or more cooperative strategies. Okay, next is avoiding conflict style. Prefer this style when conflict has become too emotionally charged and cost of trying to resolve the conflict outweighs the benefits. Okay. The fourth one is yielding conflict style. Prefer this style when the other party has substantially more power. Issue is much less important to you than to other party, and the value and logic of your position is not as clear. Okay, the last is compromising conflict style. Prefer this style when the parties have equal power, time pressure to resolve the conflict, and parties lack of trust for problem solving. Okay, the best conflict resolution style on this situation is yielding style. This conflict resolution style preferred because Department A have considerably more power than B. Yielding, it involves giving in completely to the other side wishes, or at least cooperating with little or no attention to own interests. This style involves making unilateral, consensus, and unconditioned promises, as well as offering help with no expectation of reciprocal help. For example, in order for both departments to solve the conflict, one side must practice yielding conflict style, which in this case Department B will have to oblige Department A's request or demand. This is because Department B have less power in compared to Department A, whom have more. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, for the question 6 about the explain A for explain the SLT. So SLT is a situational leadership theory, suggests that effective leader vary their style of leadership with the varying ability and motivation of followers. Based on the diagram above, there are 4 leadership styles, which are telling, selling, participating, and delegating. This 4 leadership style is distinguished by the amount of task-oriented or directive behavior and people behavior-oriented or supportive behavior. So number 1 is telling. Telling is when the leader demonstrates high task behavior and low supportive behavior. Telling is when the leader directs and provides instruction on how and what tasks to do. So telling is also known as directing. So number 2 is coaching or selling. Coaching is when the leader has high task behavior and high supportive behavior. In coaching or selling leadership style, the leader should provide social and emotional support to the group members. Number 3 is supporting or participating. Supporting is when the leader demonstrates low task behavior and high supportive behavior. This is leadership style. The leader shared their decision making on how the task should be completed and have a good relationship with their group members. And number 4, delegating. Delegating is when the leader has low task behavior and low supportive behavior. The leader delegates the task to the group members. They still involved in making the decision, but they just monitor the task that being delegated to the group members. And for the next question, B, is about transformational leadership and transactional leadership. So transformational leadership is a leadership perspective that explains how leaders change teams or organizations by creating, communicating, and modeling a vision for the organization or work unit, and inspiring employees to strive for what visions. In other hand, transactional leadership means a leadership perspective stating that effective leaders help employees improve their performance and well-being toward the current objective and practice. There are many different of transformational and transactional leadership, including ways dealing with problems, implementing new ideas, empower employees, achieving company's objective, and motivating followers. So number one, about dealing with problems. Transformational leadership is proactive, whereas transactional leadership is responsive. And number two is about implementing new ideas. Transformational leadership works to change the organizational culture by implementing new ideas, but transactional leadership works with the organizational culture. And number three, empower employees achieving company's objectives. Transformational leaders motivate and empower employees to achieve company's objective by appealing to higher ideals and moral values. In contrast, transactional leaders make employees achieve organizational objective through rewards and punishment. And lastly, motivating followers. Transformational leadership motivates followers by encouraging them to transcend their own interests for those of the group unit, while the transactional leadership motivates followers by appealing to their own interests. So next I'll move to the next question.
Okay, for question 7A asks about to illustrate Lewin's chain model and explain about it. Alright, Lewin's chain model is one of the most widely respected ways of viewing the change process. Two sides of the force field, including driving force and also restraining force. Driving force, it means that it pushes the organization towards the new state of affairs, such as technology, competitor, or other environmental changes. While restraining force, it means that the force that maintain the status quo and known as resistant to change, because they tend to block the change process. So if we can illustrate that driving is the one who will keep moving forward, and restraining will be the one who will tend to block them for coming forward. Okay, if driving and restraining are imbalanced, we call it as stability. Lewin's force field model highlights the effective changes occurs by unfreezing the current situation, moving to a desired condition, and also refreezing the system so it remains in the desired state. Unfreezing involves producing this equilibrium between the driving and restraining force. Meanwhile, refreezing means that an organization's structures are aligned with the desired behaviors. They must support and also reinforce the new role patterns and to prevent the organization from slipping back into the old ways, into the old way of doing things. Okay, alright. For 7B, it's about to explain what is distress and eustress. Eustress is a necessary part of life because it activates and motivates people to achieve goals, change their environment, and succeed in life challenge. It is basically a short term and is perceived as within our coping abilities. Most of the individuals who are eustressed, they might feel exciting as they achieve their goals. Besides, this type of stress will improve employee performance. This happens when they are receiving a promotion or rise at work or starting a new job or something else. It might be also taking a vacation. Basically, eustress will definitely give a great or positive impact towards the individual. Unlike distress is a degree of physiological, psychological, and behavioral deviation from negative experience. This type of stress can be short-term or long-term and is perceived as outside of our coping abilities. The consequences of this stress is based on these three based on these three explanation, physiological, psychological, and also behavioral. If what I mean in physiological, they might have headache, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and so on. For psychological, it will cause dissatisfaction, moodiness, depressed, and many more. Then in behavioral, it can decrease their work performance, lead to higher absenteeism. It means that they will tend to absent from attend their work, and also will attempt to decide a poor decision. Besides, it also can lead to mental and physical problems. The example of distress is when they are unemployed, death of family members, being abused or neglected, and many more. So, to be summarized, eustress is the positive stress, and distress is one that gives a negative impact to our life. Right, that's all from me. Thank you.